all. That's not
Oh,
even.
there's no chance we're letting you get away with that.
All right, guys. Now, okay, we went live, but I'm still gonna play the intro.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to
Hey,
another episode of the Carbonite Bounty BS with me and the nerds here. How's everyone doing this week?
great.
What is up? What is up?
What's up,
Good,
everybody?
man. And this in my opinion is one of the most hot taked, highly anticipated episodes here. As we get into the ultra controversial sequel trilogy.
Ultra.
Episode 7.
Ultra.
We'll start with. But before we even get into any of this stuff, let's let DP let you guys know where to find us at.
Nerdcyclopedia.com. People, make sure that you are going to our site and linking up to our social media outlets. We're at Nerdcyclopedia on Facebook, Twitter, and also on Instagram. If you are watching us right now on YouTube, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and also that notification button. But anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. Leave us some feedback too. We love feedback here at Nerdcyclopedia. Nerds at nerdcyclopedia.com. That's where we are at. Also, you can go on Facebook. We have a Facebook group called Carbonite Bounty BS, a Star Wars Facebook group. So make sure that you put on your memes, put on your your slappy pictures and stuff. Anything that can get engage with us, we will definitely welcome that. And most of all, if you are listening to us on your smartphone and also on the radio, we are on iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, we are there.
Appreciate that. And as we get started, it's funny. I haven't seen not one Will Smith slapping J.J. Abrams Star Wars meme yet. I'd love to see that in the community. So if anybody
Yeah.
out there has that, let's get that rolling in the Star Wars community. We need that.
Let's get it rolling.
Get it rolling.
boy.
But, yeah. So as we dive into this, unusually I'll actually lead with this one here. So on my first take of this episode 7. I'm just going to say this before we dive into things. So, watching this as a singular movie, I think they did a great job as far as the way the movie was set up. It was kind of like a remix New Hope, but there was a beginning and end. Decent plot, great acting. I think the dialogue was great. I felt that Adam Driver stole the show. His character in this was really strong, and it kept me gripped. The first 5 minutes with the blaster bolt, that sold me throughout the whole movie. So the minute I seen that, not knowing what was going to progress, that had me glued to the theater for the rest of it. So before I even dive into the other part of it, I'll say is, watching the movie as a finite movie, I thought they did a good job putting the movie together, and it had great acting, and I'll kind of leave it really at that.
I think that it's very fair for us to do first what you're saying, right? Because it is its own entity, and in my opinion, the big problem with this movie is what happened after this movie, right? But as a movie, you're absolutely correct. Daisy Ridley excellently cast as Rey. Just very, very good performance. She's very believable as someone who's just like intuitively good at figuring out what she has to do, right? It does it over and over and over again. Very excellent character trait. I thought, the core three, Boyega and Isaac, also very excellent performances. Really made you love those characters. I really loved Poe Dameron after this movie. Loved him. He was super cool. And he, survived against the odds, and was a really awesome pilot, right? This movie had some really cool, like aerial combat too, that I think I had not appreciated, and I'd forgotten how good those scenes with that squadron are above the Starkiller base. Mm-hmm. So really, as its own thing, I think this is a very satisfying story, and I think that it's remarkable in that it got Harrison Ford to come back to Star Wars to do this for Han Solo and for, all of us, really, right? They didn't have to recast that part or ignore it or have him die off camera.
Right.
If this movie accomplishes nothing else except to give us like a satisfying end to Han Solo's arc, which I believe that it does, in thanks to no small part to Adam Driver's performance, right? like you're saying, Timish. I think that it's successful in that way, right? Because that's the thing it has to do. Because everybody knows Harrison Ford was not doing more than one of these. Sorry, Ken, I was over eager because I missed last week. That's on me.
No, that's fine. You know what? I echo both what you guys said. I watched this movie again, and you know what? I remember standing in line waiting to go into this film when it came out, and from the opening scroll, let's remember what this is about: the hunt for Luke Skywalker. Because right there, once I read those first 3 paragraphs, I was like, "Hunt for Luke Skywalker? What do you mean hunt for Luke Skywalker? What the hell happened to Luke Skywalker?" You know, so. The point of this film and the reason they had to get the band back together and the reason they went back to the old, the no-name actors. No offense to anybody in the film, but these are actors that nobody knew who these people were, and that was the same thing with A New Hope. No one knew Harrison Ford from a hole in the wall or Mark Hamill, but now that the band is established and we got our main characters, we can get them all back together for a new adventure. And I dug into this rewatch with just an open mind. And I'll have to say, I do appreciate it more now that we've gone through the trilogy. We've gone through the prequel. We've gone through all the EU stuff. We've dug into things and we've pieced things together and we know where the story's going. I appreciate more what they did. I like all the call outs they did from the simple, quick, it was like 5 seconds. Finn dug into a bag of junk and pulled out a Jedi training remote and just threw it aside. He's like, "What's this junk?" Threw it aside. I mean, there were these, just when they were on the Falcon, all these great little call outs. And when Han and Chewie walk on the Falcon for the first time, I mean, we're home. I mean, that scene, and then the scene where BB-8 reveals the map to Luke Skywalker for the first time. And that scene is probably the high point of the entire film for me, because that brings the story together. We're looking for Luke. We've got the band. We've got everybody back together. We've got all the main characters in place and everything syncs up with the original feel of the film. I mean, I really appreciated what they did. And I think we talked a little bit offline, or you guys were going back and forth about how would this regime see how building this giant weapon failed every other time? Well, guess what? This time they went green. They used the power of the sun. So they've got the tree huggers buying into this. And they didn't just build a new weapon. They took a planet and put the weapon in the planet. So they stepped it up. Okay. The First Order, I would have to say, is a 10 out of 10 as far as evil empires go. I mean, I'm just saying, because they're, like I said, they're green. They're covering all the bases with all the priorities of saving the planet and everything. They're using the power of the sun. They're absorbing the sun completely, but there's other suns. But I thought so that's what they really stepped it up. I really like this film. And just if we look at episode 7, I like where it was going. DP, let's hear it.
This was a very enjoyable movie. It was it was pretty much just as I remember it. And I didn't remember a lot, because I was going in as a casual from before and everything, and going in as that, I remember, enjoying myself, but not really knowing a lot of context and everything. Now that we went through the whole retrospective of the prequel trilogy, the Clone Wars, Rebels, the sequel.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop playing games.
Hey, it is what it is. That was really good. So a lot of stuff came back to me, and is Steel City was saying it. A lot of the aerial stuff. There was a lot of great action in this movie. A lot of moving parts. Rey. I'm loving Daisy Ridley as Rey. She's a she takes the personality of the movie and just drives it. Finn, I'm loving from its introduction on in, and and just as before, I'm so curious about Finn's background from the moment he sort of deviates from what you normally see as a stormtrooper. You don't see any personality or any type of reaction from these guys, but all of a sudden you see this one out of place.
Mhm.
They purposely put like the blood on his helmet just to make him differentiate from the other stormtroopers, so that's him. And then Kylo gets his force thing sensing him and everything. Something's different about the guy. So yeah, I'm immediately invested in this guy, and like, why is he trying to get away from like the First Order? What is his deal? Why does he want to save Poe and everything? So I'm immediately invested in that story. When we get introduced to Rey and everything, I'm immediately invested in her story. Poe is like so likable, from the get-go. Such great dialogue between the characters. The chemistry between our three heroes are immediate. That's immediate. And then we meet our villain, Kylo Ren. He's like, this dark force, Darth Vader wannabe and everything, but a cool costume. He's like, just like, slicing and dicing, like, the boards and stuff, getting all mad and everything. He's like, oh, this is crazy dude. And it was decent. I was really invested the whole time. Love the visuals. It's more updated and everything. I mean, that's just what it is and stuff. Definitely, some plot holes and some stuff to really delve into to talk about. But as a standalone stuff for just this movie, yes, The Force Awakens is very, very good for me.
And the chemistry with the heroes and the villains too was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, you really felt that they knew something more about each other, but you weren't sure yet. And first interaction with Poe and Kylo Ren, I mean, it was comedic. It was like, he was like, what do we do? You talk first, I talk first. I can't really see what's going on behind. And Kylo kind of bought into that. There was a lot that dialogue. I mean, you immediately got the feeling that there was a group of heroes and villains that kind of knew each other, but you didn't know why. So that was really a great thing.
Yeah. And then, as we discuss the good,
Oh, here it comes.
let's get into where the wheels. I won't say the wheels fall off, because I like this movie. I did. This was a good movie, but I'll say the ship started to wobble a little bit. So
Yeah.
let's just get into where the ship began to wobble.
Oh,
I think the first thing. Sorry, Still. I think the first thing I want to say that the movie is as decent as it was. It felt a little corporate to me. It felt that it was trying too hard to hit points and to hit points of nostalgia that I don't think it necessarily needed to do. If it had really stuck to its story, and it while it felt like Star Wars, it almost felt a little off what we've been watching in this entire time and everything. It's like a lot of the stuff didn't feel like Star Wars. It felt like a great adventure movie and everything that you can get behind and everything. But some of the elements in there was sort of like it was just I could sort of see the corporate hands in it saying that, okay, well, you need to hit this beat there, so make people react here, do this here, to make people go here and everything. And I don't think it necessarily needed to do that. It didn't just going from like what we just went through with like the main episodes 4, 5, and 6. You didn't have any of that. Of course, that was original stuff and everything. But while those movies didn't have like the greatest of like stuff, it was made for that time and a place and period. But it didn't seem like this movie carried over a lot of that spirit from that. It was trying to, but I think the corporateness of this was showing its whole.
Yeah, very fan servicey. Too much nostalgic points, like you're saying. There was just too many callbacks and like to the originals that you didn't need. The story was strong. It had me off the blaster bolt. Literally, I
Yeah.
was gripped. I'm like, oh my god, this new force power. This guy can stop a blaster bolt. Like this guy's gonna be ridiculous. And
Yeah.
literally, that's really all we see him do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
Mind
For this guy to have this much power, and then
But Ray
Doesn't do it
pushed
right.
back on him. Ray pushed back. Ray pushed
somebody,
back, and
yeah,
Poe
somebody,
pushed back.
somebody with no training is going to push back on a guy that can stop a blaster bolt.
Yeah, well,
That's what we're going to stop
All right.
it there.
We're going to talk about Force and Mystics here because a Mystics means the thing you decide to study, right? Like how we've put a lot of mystics in our society into computers in the last 50 years, right? A lot of investment in that. So this guy is doing all the hard stuff, the punchy stuff, right? The military stuff. He's the Knights of Ren, and he's going on these raids. Is he doing the soft stuff? Is he doing the telepathy? Is he doing, that sort of stuff?
he's not doing the torture initiative stuff.
No. And don't forget this either. The Sith do not deal honestly. They're not going to teach him anything more than they have to keep him strung along because they don't want Kylo Ren to become more powerful than the Sith,
the Sith master.
whatever we're calling Snoke. If we'll say Snoke because we're in this movie, right?
Yeah, right. We'll just say
God, we're here. That makes some sense that this guy's just disfigured and stuff. Like I get a disfigured guy. Like that makes sense to me.
Because the Sith aren't hands-on. They
Right.
have somebody do it for them. So there's no blood on their hands.
Mm-hmm.
Palpatine never did anything to anybody, really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he fought every now and again. He threw Mace Windu out a window, but that's about all we saw him do.
He only threw him out a window, so
He
I
just
mean,
threw him out.
not too much.
But there wasn't
all those other Jedi too. It's not like he went by himself.
Yeah, I mean, so there was always somebody else that was doing all the bad stuff. Taking the rap for everything. Darth Vader, Count Dooku, Kylo Ren is doing all the bad stuff, and the Sith Lord is sitting in the back, just manipulating and pulling the strings.
What's one thing I have a question about this? So he's got, Kylo has this like Vader's melted helmet, right? Like he's got Vader's melted helmet, and we assume ashes from his grandfather's grave, which is creepy, by the way. If any of us were doing this, we'd say you need help, right? Like it would be so super, like it would not be healthy for you to act like this. And let me ask you this: like Anakin Skywalker gets a good Force ghost at the end of Episode 6, which is just behind this, right? Like we just saw that happen in the movie, so we pretty much know for a fact that the real Darth Vader would not be telling him, go to the dark side. Let me show you how powerful the dark side is, right? Like we have to know that. Are we supposed to understand that this is all just Snoke pulling the wool over his eyes or something? It made me really confused because the movie didn't come back later to address that really. They just kind of let it go.
Leia addressed it. Leia said, Snoke took our son from us. She's the one that really, I mean, she knows the whole deal. She knows what happened to their son. She knows what's happening with the First Order. She kind of sees more than anyone else sees. At least now it's a family matter again, which is what Star Wars is. It's a family business.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of it being the Skywalkers right now, it's the Solos. So she knows already that Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, is got the wool pulled over his eyes, and he's not really thinking with his own judgment. He's being manipulated and lied to, she said.
Yeah. See, I like Hitch though. I can't buy that. I mean, and that's where it kind of becomes like almost like Abrams, like it's like crap writing in my opinion. Like that's where you miss the plot because you literally just watched it, right? So Luke is training him. We don't know this yet, but now we find out that Luke has trained him at his temple. Mm-hmm. This is the guy's son. You don't think he told him this, right? You don't think he told him, hey, look, I was seduced. I've heard of Jedi seduced. He talks to Yoda still, right? So you don't think that there is no conversation saying, yeah, just by the way, if you hear voices from the Sith, they can't talk to you.
Yeah, ignore
they don't you know what I mean? Like, so in that point where Hitch says, yeah, like, that is kind of like a cop-out as far as where they wrote it and how he was seduced, because it's like that almost, that would be like the impossible. to do.
I mean, here we don't have the whole. We don't yet
Right.
have the whole Luke Skywalker explanation of what happened here, and that
Right.
whole thing has not happened yet. And I feel like it's still again fair to address this movie because there's no way, based on what we know about the production of this stuff, that they had written or decided what was going to happen in Episode 8 by the time this movie was done and out. So we don't have to say for the purposes of this review that what we find out happened in 8 really happened.
So they
I
were waiting
think
for
this is
reaction.
a very important thing about Episode 7 here because I think the
Right.
problem in the sequel trilogy is not so much here. It's that they decide to just do a turn. And instead of telling the next chapter of the story they set up, they tell some other story for the middle part, right?
Yeah.
And then, bizarrely, instead of fixing this, they go and tell the third part of the original story later without bridging the gap.
Right.
Now, I think I've
That's
said
all
this
later. That's
Yeah.
later.
That's all later, so we don't have
That's
to.
later, so we'll address that.
We can just assume this is all foreshadowing. But I do also think that another point here is that what is missing is Luke Skywalker, and I
Sure.
think that this is
Yeah.
my main complaint about this movie. Maybe is that there's no Luke Skywalker in it, and
Until
I think
the end.
well he's barely in. He's in the one scene and he doesn't do anything except look at her and kind of be disappointed, right? Like, oh, you're not a dude. It felt very sexist, but that's just I'm just kidding. Mark Hamill's not like that. But in my opinion. There should be more Luke Skywalker in this. And I think that now what's interesting about our perspective is how much of an appetite we know that we have for Luke Skywalker because we're from the time after he's back in The Mandalorian.
Right.
So for me, that's the thing that's missing here is Luke. And I know because as you said, Ken, the crawl says that's the plot of this, right? Is that Luke is gone.
The hunt
So there's
for
no-
Luke Skywalker, right?
Yeah, and it's in my opinion that is a mistake from the open, and that is the reason why this movie is not more than the sum of its parts. You can look at an individual scene and say I like that scene, and look at the next scene and say I like this next scene, and you can sequence almost the whole movie like that.
Reach.
But at the end of the day, because there's no Luke, it
Yeah.
feels like it's just a sequence of scenes rather than one story.
So I think, and just let me know if I'm hitting any points here. What you're missing, and then like with the crawl and everything, the crawl just lays out everything. So okay, you're expecting from the crawl to have at least a Luke in a 25% portion of the film and everything, not the very last scene, the last 10%, the last 5%, and then you're done with it. I mean, I was pretty much waiting the whole time to see Luke Skywalker when I first seen this.
They
So,
talked,
I mean,
they talked about him.
Yeah, they're talking about
him through the film.
like the movie and everything. Okay, so this is okay. Now, if you're going to do that, that's okay. But that's one complaint. Also, where's the mythology? Where's the lore? So you got these string of scenes that's like Hitch says, it's the sum of his parts and everything. But where's the like he said, the connective tissue that actually, at least with the prequel trilogies, you got a lot more meat on the bone. You just don't have a lot of sizzle. You know what I'm saying? But you got a lot of meat there that was actually taken by Filoni and actually, just everything was sprinkled upon it and everything. But you had a lot of meat there with the sequel trilogies, and it laid a lot of groundwork for explanation of the beginnings of like the Jedi and how their eventual downfall became and everything. With this here, what is it? It's just action scenes. It's like it's Rey finding the whole plot is finding Luke. That's it. Where's Star Wars in this? Where's so we got like the First Order rising. Why did they rise? How did they became how did they make it even to this point? And you got like the time, the repeated stuff. Okay, you got a planet destroyer. You got a the three heroes and stuff. Okay, so we got that. We got the planet destroyer. We got that. So we have what else we need from like the we got our R2D2
Millennium Falcon.
We got the Millennium, I didn't mind like the retroactive Han Solo and them coming back. I didn't mind that. But
No.
you don't have a lot of the lore that I've been come to knowing, especially with like the Jedi stuff, and then with Rey, they could have did a lot better with Rey. I loved the character of Rey. I loved the portrayal of her. But a lot of the stuff that she was doing needed explanation as to why she knew how to do all this stuff and was so good at it throughout the whole movie and everything, you know.
Right.
It needed a lot more heft as far as like not so much justifying like her and everything. And I don't know if that sounds sexist or anything like that, but I just needed the reasons why this I just needed some reasons why she was just so adept at everything.
Yeah, and I mean that was my point. They made her. I mean, they made her out of any Jedi severely overpowered. And the way this laid out, you would have thought that she's been trained her whole life, like a Grogu. She's
Yeah.
been through training. So
Maybe her father was Obi-Wan Kenobi.
right,
Yes.
you know. And listen, hey, that
Okay, that would make the whole film fall into place.
that's
They
what made
just
all
said-
this. That was the story.
And she
Off
could
the
have been
bat.
half Mandalorian. Now that we've see now I feel so sad because I know that she could be half Mandalorian, half Kenobi, and wouldn't that be just like
If they had dropped a hint of
wow,
that,
right?
then
Right.
okay, just all you need is like maybe a line or something that they would have explained like a lot to me. Okay, so she has some lineage, you know. I'm not, but Abrams, you just want to tease stuff. We know what happened with like your mystery box stuff. We know what you like with your movies. You like teasing stuff, but you tease stuff too much to where it's like, okay, you're losing the sense of what this is, you know. This plot and this story and everything, and what made it so great in the beginning.
Mhm.
Well, the big thing that leaked out before Hitch goes is when he did this episode 7, the fear was in the lead up to this, he was such into George and it was a homage thing that, I mean, if you literally look at this and line this up, if you lay this over a piece of paper, episode 4, it's the same thing. It has your baby lightsaber fight at the end. If you line it up, it's basically a reboot of 4. Like you're saying, DP, with what we have now, this could have been so much. You have way better characters, and they literally just laid a sheet of paper on the script of episode 4 and just copied it.
And
Literally.
I sensed a lot of Raiders of the Lost Ark in this too. With
Yeah.
I mean, think about what they were doing. You had the Nazis and the college professors looking for one thing. They were looking for the same thing. They were looking for this piece of the map, right?
Oh,
So you had that, and even with the Rathars, the creatures, the rolling thing. I mean, Han running from. I mean, I had this from that moment on. I was like, wow, this feels like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like it's got this whole,
Let's add some of that in there too. Let's add some more to Lucas stuff, you know.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying about like they were doing a lot of fan service, but they had to because they knew they had to make sure that they were pulling in the old audience.
I understand.
Building in the new audience.
No, see, that's where I get lost because the old audience, we didn't need that. Coming from us, we understood that, Ken. This movie was 100% about trying to get new fans. It bombed because they didn't watch it. We watched it. New fans didn't care about this.
Yeah, and you know what? The one thing I didn't like was R2
didn't bomb.
It did not bomb.
R2 not bomb based on projection.
Hold on a
R2
second.
was under a tarp, like in low power mode, because he was so sad that Master Luke was gone.
Yeah,
I mean that.
I think when you go back and hear like comments, The Force Awakens is probably like the most highly praised of course of the sequel trilogies and stuff, where it becomes like divisive is when Last Jedi and especially Rise of Skywalker comes out. But this movie, like we're talking about strictly this movie, and it has its elements. It's
that's it.
It made a lot of money.
when I talk about bomb, it's not financially. It's about people.
Emotion.
No, it's about fan base reach because it didn't reach the people they wanted it to.
I mean, everyone's into Star Wars. How much more people are you going to try to reach? Right? You know, basically. But hold on, T Mitch. You're basically trying to get new fans and they're younger fans. It's not so much people that's outside our age and everything. You're trying to get those fans up on. And I think we were talking about the other week, you know, Rey is a popular character. This is the type of movie that gets them on board. You know, you got Rey, you got I don't see much of or Finn and everything, but you see a lot more Kylo Ren. You see Rey. You know, this is definitely getting those fans. Those same. It's remember when the prequel trilogies came out, people was deriding those, but those people who grew up on the prequel trilogies love those movies. They love those movies. So that's the ones that they grew up
Weird.
with. That's the Star Wars. And they went back and saw everything else and realized that the whole thing ties together, you know? So you can't really discount like the younger ones who can't really, you know, do podcasts and everything, or maybe they do on TikTok. I don't know.
They wouldn't bother.
I guess they wouldn't necessarily bother, you know, to try to you know, right, put all their fans, you know, fandom out there like that and everything.
Well, yeah, I get you. I get what you guys' point. When I mean new fans, it's not younger. It's just people who've never seen it. I felt like this movie, based on the callbacks to A New Hope and all the fan service, what I call it, they were trying to draw a new fan in completely. Like, I've never watched Star Wars. Oh, well, watch this one. So we're going to do this to try to draw you in. Not age group wise, it's just people who weren't interested in Star Wars. That's what I felt. It was a movie to try to draw a whole new person in.
But to your point, I think they did fans that maybe are coming on to this service by not. I don't want to say not making it Star Wars, because that's essentially what it is and everything. But if this is the seventh episode out of, you know, 6 that we've seen so far, it should have been a lot more meat to this.
Correct.
That you can actually still draw in, like, you know, newer newbies or whatever.
Consider this. So this is a weaker version of episode 4. If we're to just say that's the posit. Yeah. Consider that Kylo Ren himself is a weaker version of Darth Vader. Consider that the First Order is itself a weaker version of the Empire, right? Consider that Han Solo is a weaker version of Ben Kenobi. Consider that, you know, Poe is a weaker version of Luke because he doesn't have Force sensitivity. And consider, I mean, these are all the, you know, consider that the weakness on the Starkiller base is way bigger, right? I mean, the simulacrum is there, right? And it's interesting. And it's interesting that we say that sort of is how it is as a film itself, right? Because it's built into the plot. You know, Domhnall Gleeson is a weaker Tarkin. You know, it's interesting how the text itself channels the meta text.
Wow.
0 viewers.
Wow. So you didn't talk
video
about
just
Rey. Rey could have been, I mean, to me, Rey is sort of like Luke, young Luke, not really knowing what his place was. He had abilities, right? Luke was able to bullseye womp rats as his T-16 back home. I mean, that's an amazing, if you think about, and if you understand what that meant, like what a womp rat was and what a T-16 was, to be able to hit that, you had to have some ability. Luke was 16, 17, 18 years old, something. No training that he knew of, but he had this innate ability. Rey, too, living on her own, out there in the middle of nowhere.
I disagree about the comp, and I'm going to tell you why. Because in my opinion, Rey is what would have happened if Leia had been put in exactly this position. And because Leia was not taken to the wastes like Luke was, she was taken to the palace.
She was taken to royalty, right? So she was going to be the brains.
But remember, Rey is, and okay, so now I'm gonna break my own rule and talk about the future plot of this, right? Rey Rey is a crown princess of the Empire. I mean, we're talking royalty. She's a Palpatine, right? I mean, say what you want about the legitimacy.
What?
Spoiler alert.
Heresy. Wait. Stop. Hit the stop. You can't say that. No.
Spoiler alert.
Don't buy it.
I'm going to quit.
So why does the First Order, knowing what the Galactic Empire did before, they tried to do it again, you know? And why is the Resistance still a resistance? You know? So I mean, according to
I understand this part much better now. I understand much better now because what the Resistance is it's the fighting directly against the First Order, right? And the Republic doesn't want to be in a shooting war with the First Order, so they fund and arm the Resistance.
Yeah,
which makes a lot more sense to me now, coming from the end of March 2022.
That's what's happening right now in our world.
Right,
we're not getting involved, but we're funding it.
Right.
We're sending.
I would have loved a lot more of the politics of that in this movie than what we got.
because it should have been developed more next. That's the
Right.
next part, is telling us
That's
more about that.
I see. Now
And
you're
they
getting fired
stopped.
up. I told
They
you.
did something else, and it's driving me crazy.
I told you. Yeah, we let
And then
him
they
drink
told the
breast
last part of that stuff, the same story. They went back.
milk. We
They
let him
went
drink breast
back.
milk. We let Luke Skywalker drink breast milk is what we did.
I'm just my problem isn't so much that they made one mistake; it's that they made two. They made a second mistake.
So basically, what you're saying, this is a perfect setup movie just to get us introduced to our
Correct.
new heroes and characters and
Yeah.
everything. And the second and third movie should have been more of a just
Just
like
continue
how,
this, yeah.
just like how Phantom Menace, introduced us, to that to like the politics and everything, which we never really delved into, and then we got more into the politics with Attack of the Clones, and then finally the last one and everything. This, I guess, this is what you should have been expecting as a Star Wars fan, but it went in a whole different direction. Like the next movie. Well, of course, we're not talking about the next movie. We're talking about this movie.
So maybe when this one was this one was thought about, maybe they felt like after Revenge of the Sith, The Force Awakens would be like kind of the next vibe, because really A New Hope sort of reset everything. It reset the story. But if you look at the progression of things and how the Empire was sort of evolving, you would, like you said, Steel City, these are weaker characters that we're looking at in Force Awakens. So
Are you sure about that?
Well, I don't know.
One's the same. Some of them are the same. Like Chewie and Han, not weaker.
Yeah, they're aged and they're veterans, right? But
Rey's
Rey
stronger than
and
Luke.
Hux and
I don't think that's
Ren,
what
and they would be like the beginning.
Yeah, these characters are weaker. They're not as strong as are the characters that we know and love and everything. Not strong as physically like powerful or whatever. They're strong. They're just weaker.
Are they weaker? So I think we'll all agree that they're weaker characters than like Han and Leia and Luke, right?
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question because we just finished watching these guys as well. How do they compare to Anakin, Obi-Wan, Padme?
No comparison.
Yeah, there's no comparison.
Those three were stacked. I mean, they
yeah,
wrote those characters.
Strong characters.
Strong
characters.
These were weaker, and I would think these guys would come like in the New Hope.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, you have your elements there. Finn has a backstory that that's just screaming to be told somehow.
Right.
They showed his baby picture.
Ray.
Bleak as hell. That's bleak, man. We take these babies, and he says it later on. The guy Doug says it. He goes, "My babies have been stolen from the best families across the galaxy."
It's sad that it had to be like that and everything, but it's screaming to be told someday.
Yeah.
But Ray, I mean, okay, so it's all Finn. Ray, come on now. Ray is just pretty much just put there, and then
I'm not giving you guys. I'm not giving you guys Ray. I'm sorry. I let you guys. I know I love the character, but the power level, like is like on a Dragon Ball Z perspective. We talk about like when Luke came out in Ray, bro. Luke was not winning a lightsaber duel off the bat. She bested Kylo. So that's where I'm like, so when I seen that, okay, she bested him. In our mind, as we progress forward, this girl had to have training. There's no way that you're going to best somebody who was trained
from
by
her
Luke
dad.
Skywalker.
From her dad, Ben Kenobi.
You're going to best him. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where, like, and I guess that's peeking forward. But right now, when you've seen her best him, moving forward, I'm like, oh, she has to be Kenobi, or she had to be trained because he got in her. The plot was there.
It's a good tease, okay. You just have all types of questions after this movie.
Yeah, she's flying a plane.
Maybe he's that and everything. She has to be something. What is Rey? What type of lineage does she have and everything? You get excited for it. I mean, watching this movie, hell yeah. She's like, she's nice with it, man. And I'm cool with that. You don't have to wipe any of that. Just give me an explanation as to why.
Here's the problem, right? Because this movie is allowed. We are allowed to do this movie, right? Yeah. You can leave this out in the open. You don't have to explain to me right now why this happened. But you better, because you're absolutely right. And let me tell you this, the next friggin' movie opens with a scene where they're talking about what happened. And I don't think we have a satisfactory explanation. That's the problem. They allocated the time to actually do the thing, and that what happened was not satisfactory. So my opinion, and this is just my opinion from watching this movie, is that what happened is when Kylo Ren went into Rey, he went too far, and he linked their minds together. And when they're fighting in the forest, when she says the Force, what she's doing is stealing all his Force knowledge. That's what it really seemed like was happening to me when I was watching.
I wish you were a writer for this.
That's your head.
Me too.
Yeah,
I could have made some money on this, and that would have been cool.
That would have been an explanation that's believable.
Let's call it head canon.
Because then later on, right, and then the explanation we actually get is what happened is she just was better than she just had his number because Snoke linked them together in the Force. Rather than what happened having been a consequence of Kylo's own hubris, thinking I'm so powerful I can mess with anybody, right? And getting stuck in that. That's satisfying.
And don't forget about Finn. Finn wielded that lightsaber handle like he owned it. I mean, he was fighting that he was using it like a weapon, like it should be used.
He was Force sensitive, though. They kind of leaked that off the bat.
This movie makes it, in my opinion, so that all three of these characters are Force sensitive.
Yeah, I don't
feel like Finn obviously is Force sensitive. Poe, you cannot do what he's doing in a plane in this universe without using the Force. Nobody can do it except basically Anakin Skywalker and probably Luke. But Luke just gets a lot of credit because he blew up the Death Star. That's like a sniper thing. It's not the same thing as dogfighting. It's a different skill set, in my opinion.
Are you gonna let a little bit of something that makes sense be sacrificed for something that's more exciting to visually on screen?
You don't have
according to J.J. Abrams.
But I don't think you cannot pay off having either of those guys be Force sensitive, right? So I'm going to talk a lot about bounce checks. Somebody ought to have the Force, and I think that it should be Finn. I think, right? I feel like that's what they're saying here. That's what they're telegraphing to you, and I feel like that's a dropped ball, right? It's a bounce check. It's something you set up that you had ready to go to explain it to me. This is why you didn't do it. So I feel like it's okay to talk about why this movie feels like a better movie than the next two. And it's because it's like there's an alley-oop, right? And there's a perfect setup and they brick it off the back, right? It goes doink.
Or like on the slam dunk contest, you're expecting all these great dunks and stuff, and all of a sudden nobody just makes one, It just ends up being just like a total turd and everything. But as far as the context,
not a total turd. I mean, there were some great moments. It was, yes. I mean, I watched it again. Like I had never seen it, but I had all this other information that I was like, in being a super fan like I am, just watching it like it was. And like I said, the high point was when Han said, the Jedi Knights, all of this, the Force, it's all real.
Oh, yeah.
That moment to me connected this new film to the old films.
That was a commercial trailer. It's all true.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Han was the non-believer.
Yeah, and it pandered, and there was fan service. But you know what? I kind of dig that. I like to see those things. I like to see that stuff. I do have one question. So Jakku, right? It's all sand, like Tatooine.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you send an AT-AT to fight someone on Jakku? There's that scene. We see that AT-AT wouldn't that sink right into the sand? At least on Hoth, you had it was frozen, so the thing could walk on something. But now we're talking about sand. Does that make any sense? That there was who was the Empire trying to attack on Jakku?
There's a story to that. Hitch might know, but I'll tell you if he doesn't tell you.
Tell it. I don't know.
Tell me.
So the novelization to this movie was the Luke Skywalker book. It was a lead up to it. So this is the planet where you see the down starfighters, where Luke pulled them down with the Force. So when you see the down starfighters, this is actually a battle in which that Luke Skywalker series I'm talking about, I wish would come out, lets you see that
I think Disney just stepped in and froze.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. This is one of the best.
Disney was like, "Wait a minute,
best
we just heard someone leaking
That's
something
about
about a Luke Skywalker story.
Never
Stop
thought
him."
Oh.
So I get what he's saying. What T Mitch is saying is Luke pulled the Star Destroyer down, and all the AT-ATs fell out. YMCA.
He yanked him out of the sky. I think that I want to see that too, right? I think that would be a cool thing to have to see happen in sometime in the Mandalorian times, right?
Yeah,
Feels about right. Could be very good. I think that's okay for them to be able to fill in later. It's a neat environment, and it's a little different than Tatooine, but it has those harsh similarities to Tatooine. Okay, he'll be back, I'm sure. Hey, professionalism.
Nobody else say anything about Disney.
We have really bad attendance on this show.
So I mean that's my whole corporate thing. I mean it felt a lot of like not so much Disney fight and everything, but you got a lot of corporate hands put into it. We got to have this, we got to have that. You know, we got to make sure that that it's coming back after so long of an absence and everything. And this is Star Wars. You know, they put so much pressure on themselves to make this the perfect thing or whatever that that they sort of missed a lot of the spirit of it, I guess.
There's some backfires.
Yeah. I mean, but it's still a solid movie, still a solid venture movie, as on its own. If you take what Star Wars away from it, this is a solid, adventure movie. It had me from go, and there wasn't any boring parts in it, It had a tight plot where A, B, and C happen. The rescue of we're trying to rescue Rey and everything. Going to like the First Order spot and all that. We got the fan service stuff. Han coming back. We seeing Leia and all that. That's fine. I'm good with that. And then we get like the heartbreak of Han dying. Being killed by his son. I would have liked a little bit more context between Ben Solo and Han Solo, besides the fact of them saying that that they're related and everything.
Yeah, it was quick. It was quick, and then it was over. Yeah.
Yes.
That was supposed to be a reveal. I didn't even realize that because of how heavy the marketing, like how badly spoiled I was, and how much like everyone knew what was going on. But if you were watching it right after watching episode 6, they start being cryptic about your family, right? And then we see him and he's talking about your father, Han Solo, and then later on Leia says our son. Then you kind of that's the first time you're supposed to get it, and then Han says his name. Those are all supposed to be like things that are reveals, but soft reveals, right? I think it's pretty obvious the whole time. But it's interesting how that again parallels, as a mirror to hiding who someone's father is, like they did in the original trilogy.
He was more like the like you said the Ben Kenobi. I mean, because this was more of a broken man Han Solo. It's not the swashbuckler
He'd been through some stuff.
It was
he didn't have his woman backing him, keeping him in check. He was on his own. You know how many people he ripped off and didn't pay back? And I mean, he was just he was back to his old ways. He wasn't General Solo like we remember from episode 6. Yeah. Episode 6, Han Solo, General Solo, was a respected military leader. Now he's fallen. He's fallen back to his smuggler's ways. He's older. Like, Christ, how old was he? How old is Han Solo supposed to be?
75 years old, probably.
75, 80 years old? Chewie's like 1,000?
He's 250.
You guys are getting up there, right?
Looks
and then we're supposed to make it like, okay, Han and Leia on the outs and stuff, there's no explanation as to why. It's just like, lines just saying that, okay, well, she doesn't want to see me and everything, blah, 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 and then it was supposed to be like some sort of like, but yet and still when she does see Han and everything, she's like embracing him and everything. It's still all good.
It's all in his head. It's all in his head because he was
all in his head.
he was falling back to his old ways.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird that he would blame it. Like, it feels like they blame himself for him falling to the dark side. But I feel like, what we get as far as an explanation to what happened here is at least satisfying in what we know to have caused Ben's fall, right? It's convincing in that it would do that to me if I was like 17 and my position coach from football I caught them almost murdering me, right? I guess that would mess with me pretty good. So, you can empathize with them a little bit there. But we don't know that yet, right? We don't have that information about what happens because Luke's not here telling us, and I think that's a problem. But we've talked about it.
Yeah. I mean, so you spend all this time trying to bring Luke back and everything. I mean, I'm sorry, not bringing Luke back, but teasing, the Luke reveal and everything. But you don't have him on screen with our main heroes and stuff. So, I mean, essentially throughout this whole trilogy, Luke is not going to even see Han. That's just like a missed opportunity in itself.
I have a problem with that. I have a real problem that they couldn't make that happen, especially given the fact that they were both in this friggin' movie. That is a real tragedy in my opinion.
It's a miss.
It's a real miss for me, and maybe it's just that's just what I wanted to see. But I feel like Han and Luke should have some unresolved business here. They should have business.
So why isn't Luke on? So why? What happened with? I'm forgetting stuff. So put DP doesn't remember it again. Why didn't Luke go? Why didn't Han go with Rey to go see Luke? I mean, to go find Luke in his Millennium Falcon.
Because he was supposed to. His son was going to kill him.
Oh, that's just so his son. So at that point, so Han is already dead.
Right. He had to confront. He had to confront Ben.
Okay. So AB had to happen. So C couldn't have happened.
Right. No, that was never going to happen.
They really wanted Han.
Because Leia said, "You have to bring him back. You have to talk to our son." And you know what? I see it in my life. When my kid,
okay,
my kid is off the chain. I have to go and like reel him back. It's the father and the son, Luke, Anakin, Han, Ben, and I'm accepting it now that Ben Solo's the son that Leia and Han had that we didn't know anything about. I get it, and he's a good boy. He was a good boy. He grew up with good parents.
Grew up strong.
He grew up strong. He grew up. He had everything he needed. He had education. He had technology. He
had a great helmet.
Yeah, he had a great helmet. He had everything he needed. He had the right upbringing, but he fell. Luke,
he had a shitty lightsaber.
Uncle Skywalker got involved and.
Well, he forget how to make a good lightsaber
or something in high school or something to where he had to go get sent off to Uncle Luke's school. I mean,
and he was weakened there. Luke said, "Hey, you're not doing this right. You're not swinging the saber vertically across your body." And
he just got impetulant even more.
Yep, and that let Snoke in to corrupt him, and that was it. And Leia said, "It's up to you. You have to bring him back." So that's why Han didn't go with Rey and Ben.
I totally understand. They could have did something to bring Luke back earlier though.
They could have
and still had Han die. At the hands of Ben. They could have did that.
I hate that part.
I just could have found him earlier.
Yeah,
and you give Luke the Han job for No, I'm not. Oh my god!
Wow, here we are. Hey, we got him now. He got me once. He got you once. We have Hitch.
Oh man,
right there, right down there.
This is being recorded, so we gotta play this. We gotta replay this again. This in our best to highlight the nurse.
No.
Clip him up.
No. Oh, it's taken so many years, but here we are.
Here we are.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know if there's production stuff that prevented them from doing that, right? Like, I mean, again, this is one of those. I think I've said this before a lot that you have to grade some of these things on a curve just because they're obviously we're planning for stuff they didn't get to do, and at a certain level, there's nothing.
Are you saying forgive them for the benefits of the context of this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to forgive them because we know not of what we see.
Right.
We know not of what comes next.
I think you're allowed to like this movie more than it ends up being because it's not. It ends up not. A lot of these shots end up missing, right? So it ends up not being more than the sum of its parts, but it still is the sum of its parts, and that's not so bad. All the scenes with Han Solo are pretty great.
Yeah,
the guys from the Raid are in that. That's cool.
Yeah.
The best line.
How about when he used Chewie's bowcaster for the first time in history?
So I like this. Yeah.
So I think it's important to remember that while again it is not some sort of Godfather-esque epic masterpiece, it is still a good Star Wars movie with some cool stuff in it.
How about when Chewie handed Han the coat and everything? Han has this look on his face when he was in the elevator or whatever. Chewie's like, because it was a callback to them being cold and everything.
Yeah.
That was pretty.
And back to Hoth too. Empire Strikes Back. Like there was all these little connections that kept every couple of minutes there was something that pulled it all back in, because I do admit watching the film I started to lose. There started to be some continuity problems, but then they started pulling it back in.
Yeah. They get you back.
This is where it starts to wobble.
I'm liking the chemistry between Rey and Finn. I thought they were going to get together at some point. I would have thought that at some point that that Finn would have had a little bit more meat, than he had. Instead of just being raised like sidekick or whatever, if you want to call it that.
Yeah,
somebody
taking my hand, she said.
Yeah, that was like funny.
and then she held out her hand to him to lift him up after he got the TIE fighter blew up the tent behind him. She held out her hand and picked him up. So there was that immediate bond. Was it like boyfriend girlfriend bond, or was it like hero bond?
It was supposed to be, but as we get into next week, and we'll see. This vehicle takes a left instead of a right. So
I really feel like this next episode, like this next movie, has my like approval for the shortest amount of time of all the Star Wars. Like, and I'm excited to talk about where I go now with episode 8. It's early.
Yeah,
it is.
We're gonna beat this one to death.
Oh, trust me.
Yeah.
This will not be a can out of can. It's kind of right.
We've been so nice though. I really feel like we've been really fair and really nice. And
for this one, this was a fair one, but this next one, I'm telling you, it's not. There's no.
Again, the sum. It is the sum. It's not more than the sum of its parts, but it is the sum of its parts.
When we get to it, because it's a lot of people that love the Last Jedi, and I'm looking for what they loved about it. I can't remember. So DP can't remember. I can't remember a lot of stuff that happened in it and everything.
And why does DP not remember?
Yeah.
That is the interesting question.
Yeah. Right.
We shall see. We shall see.
But wrapping this up, guys. Let's give our quick review here. I mean, as far as numerically, I know Ken has been straying on giving it a number, but I mean, as a reintroduction to Star Wars, I'll say, watching this for what it was, I will give it a solid 7.5. I would have gave it an 8 if there was a little more the lightsaber action. As with technology and him stopping a blaster, I was expecting more, maybe a better fight, more athletic actors. I would have just seen more action with the saber. So I'll give it a solid 7.5, just shy of an 8. But wasn't horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't horrible. I feel the same way. I would say probably an 8. I would like to have seen more lightsaber, but think about it. There weren't any Jedi. As far as we knew from Return of the Jedi, that was it. Done. Wasn't any Jedi. It was nice to see Finn wave the blade and do some good killing, good fighting with it. I thought overall this was a good film. It had everything it needed. It had a great intro. You had a good opening scroll, great soundtrack. Nice Jedi intro at the beginning. I can't remember what is Max Van Sydow. What was his name? What was the Jedi's name? Jedi
in there. Yeah.
I kept trying to rewind and listen. I listened, but you got an immediate idea that Poe knew who the Jedi were, and he knew they needed to be protected, and he was doing everything he could, but he didn't succeed. So it was a great intro. It opened up and it really felt like Star Wars to me from the opening scene. So, I'd say a good 8. Not a 10 out of 10, but a good 8.
I'd say an 8 for me on the strength of the performances and Harrison Ford as Han Solo.
So I'm gonna give this a 9, guys. I'm gonna give it a 9 because it's it was a very polished, and what I like polished, production, type movies and stuff. A lot of action. I love Rey. Love Finn. Could have did a little bit more with Poe and everything. Despite its demerits, and there was a lot of demerits that we talk about during this movie. As a movie itself, for this, The Force Awakens, it was still solid to me. It's a solid, still a solid, exciting movie. I'm giving it a solid 9.
All right, guys. Well, since Trent decided to leave a little early too much, thank you so much for joining us.
He was mad.
He was not happy.
I'll take us out. He's just so mad. He's so mad that we're doing episode 8 next week that he's done. So we'll see you next week, next Wednesday night on Carbonite Bounty BS. And for all the nerds out there and on the show, we like to say, this is the way.
This is the way.
Do it.